This year we wanted to add a different dynamic and component to our kickoff here. Last year, if you were here, you recall it was our 10th year of Money Smart Kids, and we brought in winners from the past 10 years to come in and do a panel discussion. We thought that brought a different energy to the morning, and we wanted to see if we can replicate that in some way. And this year we thought, a lot of discussion has been around millennials and money and how that has affected young people in terms of, paying for college, not being able to find jobs or the job that they want, right? So there's a lot of discussion these days about how the economy and how millennials are dealing with money. And so we scoured the internet and we called people and tried to figure out if we can find the best and the brightest out there that are talking about this, that are also millennials. And so we have a fantastic panel that our moderator will introduce, but I do want to introduce first our moderator and bring her up. Lizbeth Bloom is the head of member education at Baxter Credit Union, where she manages their financial education program, Life Money U. Under Lizbeth's leadership, Life Money U has expanded from a seminar-based curriculum to a multi-channel digital program featuring video, social media, and interactive components. She has also worked with Fortune 500 companies to develop financial wellness initiatives for their employees. Outside of the office, she enjoys running marathons and is also involved with Launch U, a mentoring program for first-generation college students. So please welcome Lizbeth Bloom.
And good morning, everyone. I am honored to be here today and get started on today's panel, Millennials and Money. And today, what we're going to focus on is not just the biggest pain points when it comes to financial literacy in millennials, but how we can communicate the financial wellness message to millennials. So I'd like to introduce our panel. We have Joe Duran, Martin Dasko, Andrew Schrage, and Cherise Conanan-Johnson. Joe Duran is Chief Operating Officer at MoneyThink, a Chicago-based nonprofit focused on teaching urban teenagers how to make and manage their money. His efforts include operational strategy, educational design, and financial reporting. Martin Dasko studied finance in college at Ryerson University, and this is where he first realized how intimidating the finance world could be. At 20, he launched a finance blog to help his peers save money and survive their 20s on a budget. Andrew Schrage, after studying economics at Brown University and a brief stint at an investment fund here in Chicago, he founded MoneyCrashers.com, a website dedicated to educating individuals on how to make wise financial decisions. Money Crashers covers a broad range of topics from retirement to planning for monthly expenses. And Cherise Conanan-Johnson is an entrepreneur, writer, speaker, and wealth expert. Through her work at Cherise Amanda Group, she offers services that provide solutions to holistic financial wellness. She's also founder and CEO at Smarties.com, a web app that helps millennials map out their finances post-college. Cherise is a CFA charter holder and graduate at the University of Chicago Booth School of Business. So thank you all for being here today. I'm going to go ahead and kick it off with what the unique financial challenges are for millennials and how this group could be approaching these challenges differently than any other generations, as I know that was a very common question tweeted in for the group. So, Joe?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, thank you so much for having us here. I feel like some of the Money Smart kids should be sitting in our place right now. Just absolutely amazing. I have the pleasure of working with college kids on a daily basis, and they are phenomenal. Our program actually reaches out to urban high school kids, and student debt is absolutely the biggest challenge facing the millennial generation. Consider this quick fact. Inflation-adjusted tuition costs $22,000 a year today, $9,000 a year 25 years ago. So that's step one. You add in the fact that when you get out of college, the unemployment rate is fairly high. I actually have a number here, 15.8% for millennials. And one final fact I want to throw your way, which I don't know if we talk enough about, is 56% of hiring managers have no desire to hire a college grad. 66% don't even believe that kids coming out of college are even ready for the real world. So these are pretty daunting numbers. I think technology is the answer. I think relevant, timely education is the answer. We reach out to urban high school kids, as I mentioned. I know we have some folks here who reach out to young adults, but making sure that that technology is actually touching the kids when they need it the most. 17 and 18-year-olds, kids in college, and then right out of college as they're facing some of those bigger decisions.
Thanks for having me. I find one of the most unique financial challenges right now is instant gratification and social media and the fear of missing out, FOMO. Like, I write about personal finance. I've been doing it for 5 years, and just the other day, I go on Facebook, and one of my friends financed a BMW convertible. I'm thinking, I have a Corolla. I should get a BMW convertible. Why don't I have one? So one of the biggest issues has to be like social media and the role of our friends and how we feel that we should be spending our money as opposed to how we want to spend our money and what we should be doing that's best for us. Many of my friends, they struggle with setting goals because they just live day to day. Like, they'll go on Facebook, they'll see, oh, there's a concert coming up. I can go. Why not? Instant gratification, credit card. You can buy most things on Amazon with just one click right now. So one of the toughest things is learning to delay gratification. How do you do that? That's a lot of work. And I think the main thing always is to set a goal. Whenever I work with somebody, I always try to help them set a financial goal. So once you save your money, you work towards your goal, then you can have fun, as opposed to having fun first and then thinking, why is my bank account empty?
And Charisse, you have a very interesting background that I'd like to piggyback off of Martin's question. Delayed gratification and delaying reward, which often is associated with an investment strategy. Can you speak to how this generation can maybe develop a financial plan where they're able to balance that instant gratification with the ultimate end result of a funded retirement?
Absolutely. Well, again, good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. And in my role in teaching teenagers about personal finance and about investing in that trade-off between what you have today and what you will have tomorrow, I think one of the biggest things that we can do to help millennials, and I just want to point out too, millennials, it's a wide set. You have millennials who are in school, who are teenagers, then you have millennials who are out in the world working full time. And so the challenge is a little bit different, but I think it comes to the same thing, which is exposure to what investing is. I think fundamentally we need to teach our youth and millennials and ourselves that the basic building blocks of what investments mean, of what the stock market is. When I'm in the classroom and talking to some of these kids, it's amazing that the light bulbs that go off when I compare, do you want that Nike shoe that you have on your feet, or do you want the Nike stock? You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. When they actually explain to them what the stock is, oh, I can own part of a company. Oh, the value of my entity doesn't go down over time, and I can possibly get money in the long run. Oh boy, the lights and their faces just light up. So I think, number one, it's about exposing them to what it means to invest, what it means in the long term, and also showing them the power of compound interest in a way that makes them excited. If I can double my money in 10 years from an investment today, by the time I'm 25, I can have this amount of money.
And thank you. And Andrew, I'd like to ask you, as Money Crashers being a top personal finance website, how are you able to take this money message that could be complicated and intimidating for some, and putting it into simple speak, I'd say?
Yeah, I think it's important. Personal finance, budgeting, credit scores, it's not a sexy subject. No one's excited to go to class and learn about it or read online about filing your taxes yourself and learning the ins and outs of kind of the basics of personal finance. So what we try to do at Money Crashers is really try to connect with the millennial generation. So a lot of experiential type writing, personal anecdotes, showing them that we've gone through the same issues they're going through, whether that's trying to get out of student loans, paying those off, starting a family, just having your first kid, buying your first house, trying to connect with them on a more personal level instead of purely on a kind of a teacher-pupil level. And I think that's resonated very well and helped us kind of send that message about personal finance and teach them at a young age. And I guess one other thing I'd add, just to kind of connect what Joe and Charisse were saying, I think student loans are kind of, I guess, increasing higher than ever. Tuition's drastically much higher, even inflation adjusted. And I think the cure to that is kind of what Charisse was saying, is to get into these children's minds at a much younger age. I think we have a great education system in America, but I think we are definitely lacking when it comes to perhaps one of the most important subjects, which is personal finance and financial literacy. And I think events like Money Smart Week are a great step toward fixing that literacy hole in our education system.
I mean, and Joe, yeah.
Yeah, if I could, I think maybe technology plays a huge role in this, and I think you look at Personal Capital, you look at Betterment. I mean, these are companies that have been able to visualize the future for young people, and as a result, they're getting many more clients because of it. So I do think technology plays a role, especially for the millennial generation. And
I would-
Smarties.
Yeah, there you go. I think also technology is one component, but technology is obsolete if you don't know how to use it, or you don't know the information that's being presented within the technology medium. So if there's still a lack of understanding of what an APR is, or why you should do $1 for dollar matching, or what 5% of your employer is, I'm getting the faces right now when I say those things. So it's important that we understand that technology plays a role, but it's also important to recognize that this generation, according to a Pew Research study that came out, is the most distrustful generation in our modern day history. And by that distrust, there's so much information out there, how can they dispel? I think we need more independent voices, not associated with some traditional entities, and those independent voices need to speak to the concerns that are relevant for millennials themselves. Because this generation, it's the most educated generation in modern day history, but it's also the most impoverished. 46% of millennials consider themselves low income or middle income.
And to build off of that, technology seems to resonate as a integral to messaging to the millennial generation. What other characteristics do you think would define a successful financial wellness initiative, financial education initiative?
Yeah, I hate to monopolize here, but there's, I think, a couple things that come to mind, and they really integrate well with each other. One is engagement, and two is being user-friendly. And again, you can point to Mint, you can point to Betterment. These are very simple, they're intuitive, they're engaging, and I think that's why so many young people are using them. And I even have, actually my parents who are going on 60 have recently jumped over to Betterment as well because it is so intuitive. So I think you'll start to see that both in financial technology as well as financial technology that exists within education.
I also think when it comes to financial education, two key components are to use their language and to work with them, not against them. Too often do we try to overcomplicate things and make them more complex than they need to be. Sometimes something as simple as teaching someone just to save 10% of their income, or to negotiate your cell phone bill, or to cut back one thing from your monthly spending. Something as simple as that can help you save money for the future. You don't have to get right into investing right away. You can start slow, build your savings, and then start investing. And another thing is there's too much no, you can't have this, you can't have that. When it comes to financial education, we should help people plan for the future with their savings while still allowing them to spend money on the things that they would like to do too. Because I try to show my readers that yes, you can have anything that you want, but you can't have everything that you want. So if you save for something, sure, you can have it. That goes back to delayed gratification. But if you just say no, 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 then people are like, I don't really want to get into financial education because I'm just going to be told I can't have this.
Charisse.
Yes, I would just like to piggyback off of what Martin said. I think two components that are necessary for technology are relevancy. So at a moment of decision, if I'm 22 or 33, both millennials, and I'm either graduating from college or getting ready to get married, that is when the technology can become impactful. How can whatever application that I'm using or whatever content that's put on technology that I'm reading be relevant for me at that moment of decision, because it doesn't mean anything when you're telling me many of these financial education principles when I don't have anything to do with that information. And so that's the first point. And so that you need that relevancy. And the second part, I think technology needs to focus on, too, the income side of the equation. So often we focus on the expense side of the equation without yet taking to all the opportunities that the income piece of the balance sheet really entails. And it's that income piece, that skill set, that's going to give those millennials that opportunity to maximize how much they can earn from their own personal skills and opportunity sets.
And Andrew, I'd like to ask you a question. A lot of us in the group today are with financial institutions or looking to work with millennials. Do you think, is it a product answer to engage these millennials, going off of what Joe said? Is it a service, coming up with a service that appeals to millennial? Is it a combination of both? How would you recommend engaging this group?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's one particular route that has to be the answer to connecting with millennials and teaching them. I think it is a combination of kind of what everyone here is saying, technology, social media, but also kind of working on your message and how you connect with them, how you present personal finance. It doesn't have to be purely discipline and not spending money. It can be kind of a means to an end in some respects. I think money is one of the biggest stressors in a millennial's life or anyone's life, and a lot of that is because this generation and even past generations didn't get that education, so they don't know how to save. They don't kind of know the ins and outs of saving for retirement or investing their money. So I think connecting with them on that level, showing that you've gone through this as well, will help them just on a very simple level kind of get into the whole personal finance education and be excited about it and learn about it to help their long-term future. So I think it's a lot of technology. I think there's a lot of current things that are important, products and services like Joe mentioned, but then even the basic stuff like content, written content is still more important than ever, and I don't think that should be minimized as far as connecting with the millennial generation.
And what additional advice anyone to give educators, practitioners offering this financial wellness message to millennials? Go ahead. You were going to say something?
I was just going to say about the products. I think it's important to introduce products that are easy to use and do the work for you. Like a lot of my readers, they like to use Betterment because it makes investing easy. And I also prefer to use Capital One 360 or any banking app where you just do automatic withdrawals from every paycheck. So I mean, my readers love that because, like, when they're trying to save money, it's like, oh, how much do I save? How do I do this? And by the time, like I mentioned earlier, your next paycheck comes around a couple days before, you're like, oh, I don't know if I can have lunch today. I got no money left. So like a tool like Capital One 360, I'm just using that because I use it. I put my money away, and they do the work for me. Like, they take my money away every 2 weeks. The money goes away. It's saved. I don't know where it is. Well, I know where it is, but I know I can't access it. and it works. Simple work sometimes.
Fantastic. Sherry?
In terms of advice for educators, is that
Yes.
the question? So I think two pieces of advice that I would leave you with. One is I think there's going to be a major shift, particularly for the older millennials. And I say older, I mean working, so typically post 18. And there's going to be much more of hand-holding at the employer level. And I think if we can collaborate with employers as they are taking in new millennials for new jobs to get them on the right foot, we have a chance of meeting them where they are. People are spending 8 to 12 hours at work. And how can we embed, again, relevancy, real-life issues on the employer front? Because financial stress, as you pointed out, Andrew, is one of the main reasons why people are unproductive at work, and it leads to why people leave so often in a work environment.
And there's a Target is really identified using the workplace as a place to educate this group, and has been very successful. So thanks for adding that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think number one, you have to establish trust first. So just establish that personal connection. To Sharice's point, 19% are trustworthy of the average person. I mean, that's incredible. So I think you need to bridge that gap first. The second thing I would say is to make real-world connections. And again, I'm going to go back to visualizing future goals because it's so hard to make mortgages, it's so hard to make retirement relevant to individuals who are 21, 22, 23. So illustrating the time value of money for a Roth IRA, illustrating the impact of not having an emergency fund. I mean, these are things that you can actually connect with the individual and say, hey, this is what's going to happen to you based on your numbers today.
As an educator, I also think the power of story helps. Because if you just throw content and just lecture and preach, most of us just get disengaged and we'll just like walk away. We won't really take it seriously. But if you can use stories and add stories into your content, if you're using content as a tool, like personal stories or stories relevancy, stories that people can relate to, it'll make it a lot easier to hook in your audience and to keep them around. Because if, like myself personally, if I can't relate to someone or if there's no story involved, it's not the same.
And Andrew, you have something to say?
Yeah, I was just going to say, just as far as one way to connect with the consumer and the student is I would argue, we're kind of influencers. We connect on probably the most simple level with the millennial generation via our blogs, our products, our services, Joe going to colleges. And I think it's important for the larger corporations who provide these products and services to connect with the influencers, learn from us, but also work together to kind of illustrate what our following, our readership needs to do and to educate them further. So I think, for example, Visa being here at Money Smart Week and connecting with us is a great start, and I think that's one of the ways that we can work together as opposed to working against or separately from one another. I think it's important for the influencers to work with the larger corporations that are providing the products and services.
That's right, and I just want to piggyback off of what Andrew's saying. I think one way to also foster the collaboration is to really also get involved with the startup communities that are at the forefront of some of this emerging technology, serving on boards, serving as advisors, as educators. I think you have an incredible amount of power and influence to help in directing the messaging and making sure that the principles are sound and working from, again, a place where the innovation is coming. I mean, I think Tricia spoke about wanting to innovate. I mean, one of the best ways to want to innovate is getting involved in the ground levels. And there are so many financial accelerators popping up around the country. It's going to be exciting how we can all work in those mediums as well to make sure that the dialogue is consistent and that we're not competing.
And we've talked a lot about what we can do to connect with the generation. And I know that for many of us in the audience, being financial educators, how would you recommend measuring results? How do you know you're successfully reaching this millennial demographic?
I can try to speak to that since we're trying to teach urban high school students. So what we do now is we use pre and post surveys and assessments. We use reflection slips after lessons. It's not as effective as it could be. It really is something that is kind of rooted in education. And that's why we've spent the last several months building out MoneyThink Mobile, which is a mobile application that students can actually use, and we can measure their behavior change through their interaction with that app. So I'll just give a quick example here. There's a challenge within that app called SnapTrack. And SnapTrack allows a student, let's say, who walks to school and picks up a bag of chips every day, instead of actually buying that bag of chips, they can take a picture of it, hashtag savings moment, upload it to the app, and interact with their friends while we're getting loads of data on the back end about how urban high school students actually spend their money. So I think that's one way to focus more on behavior change instead of focusing simply on knowledge gain.
I would like to talk about consistency when it comes to impact. Sometimes a reader will email me and they're like, oh, I'm going to start saving money. I'm never going out again. I'm never eating out again. That's not going to happen. You're going to go out. You're going to drink. You're going to eat. You're going to have a good time. You're not going to be consistent. That's going to last like a week or two. So I believe you have to be consistent in the sense that you put your money away, you have maybe an investment tool you use or a savings program you use, and you always look for ways to save money. Like I'm always looking for ways to cut back. Like I'll renegotiate my cell phone contract. I'm always trying to find something. And then there's the income equation, as mentioned earlier, where then you can try to make more money. You can upgrade your skills on the side, or get more hours at your job, or find a part-time job. But the trick is to be consistent, because if you're not consistent, it's not going to work. This isn't something you do once in a while. It's something that you really have to take seriously and want to do.
Yeah, I think one ways that you can measure impact, at least what we've learned at Smarties.com, is, and our web app actually aggregates data that someone puts in terms of their financial situation as they are leaving the collegiate environment. We attain what accounts they have, whether or not they've refinanced student loans, and so forth. So we measure pre and post college and thereafter. And so if you don't have an emergency savings account, or you haven't refinanced your loan, or you haven't consolidated your loan, or you don't have that job yet, we can see as the numbers go up, or you check off that you actually have that. And we encourage you because we tell you, you're doing great, or you could be doing better. And so it's all about that encouraging behavioral modification elements within our technology that we're able to measure impact, the amount of savings, the amount of debt that's going down, and that's real behavior change. We believe that, if you can get some of the big things right, so if you're going to refinance your loan and save $10,000, which is on average what people save when they refinance a loan, that's big. Why are you worrying about the 25 cents you saved on a bag of chips? So that's what we really strive to, that kind of change, some of the big picture.
Just real quickly to add, I think social media is a great way to measure how you're connecting, how readers or followers are responding. So we're constantly looking at our Facebook and Twitter channels, what articles are being retweeted or liked over on the Facebook page, read the comments on articles that we publish and see what people want us to write about or what's confusing them or issues that might be coming up in the future that we should tackle going forward. So I think technology has gotten to the point where it's become easier and easier to measure how you're connecting and what your readers or your customers or your followers, what do they want in a product or a service, or in our case, in content, what kind of education do they want?
And that's a great point. And one of the key themes that has resonated in today's panel has been technology and relevant messaging. I want to thank our panelists for being with us this morning. You all provided some fantastic insights, and we'll be around later this morning for any questions anyone may have themselves. So thank you, panelists.
Thank you.